The struggle is real, ladies and gents, and I'm not just talking about for the parents, but for the teachers too. We are talking distance learning this hour with three amazing educators. If you've got any questions, challenges, or indeed want to share what's working for you, and that does not include medication, please tell us on 4001. The app is there for you, and the WhatsApp to 04871 5500.
This is Eye on Education on Afternoons with Helen Farmer.
Sponsored by Horizon English School, a British curriculum primary school rated outstanding by the KHDA, focusing on well-being, happiness and excellence for over 35 years.
Distance learning does look set to continue into next week for many families across the UAE, and for parents of little ones, that was what we're talking about right now, that can feel really daunting. It can feel a bit pointless, I think. That's the word I've heard from so many parents. How do you keep a 4 or 5-year-old engaged without it turning into a battle? Well, we're bringing in the experts. Mariam Taher is with us, the head of early years at Repton Al Barsha, to share what is actually realistic at this age, how learning really happens in those little brains, and how to make home learning feel, well, I think, Mariam, a little less pressured and a bit more playful. I am asking you this with an open heart and genuine intention. How are you?
I am great. Thank you very much. This might not be a popular opinion, but I'm actually loving the thunder and rain.
Oh no, I'm with you. I love a bit. I love a bit of weather. It's making me want to go home and cozy up, and the kids are super excited. I was like, if you finished with all of your live lessons and it's still raining, yeah, you can go. They wanted to go out and look for worms because apparently when it rained on Saturday, there were loads of worms in the garden. I was like, fine, we'll say that's science.
See, and that is learning. That is remote learning. You're doing great, Helen.
Gosh, I don't feel like I am. I think I came to work this morning and I felt like I'd lived 6 lives by wrangling children onto lives. I had my year 4 asking me to hop up and down for 45 seconds so she could count it and then put that into a maths lesson. I'd taken photos of her doing tree pose. I had the other one asking for snacks, and I gleefully closed the door, I have to say. But one thing I am grateful for is that mine are a little bit older. We are going to be talking about primary years. Mine are year 4 and year 6, but back in the COVID days, it was what we're talking about now, those early years. And I wondered if perhaps maybe, Mariam, we could start by what parents should understand about how children in FS actually learn in any circumstances, especially compared to older students. You know, I think it's really important to have an understanding of what's realistic and what's beneficial.
Well, I think first we have to make it very clear. Play at this stage is learning.
Oh, Mariam, you're frozen on me.
Are often the most...
Please don't leave us hanging. There are FS parents who need your advice, Mariam.
Simple activities are the most effective in home learning. Take, for example, setting the table. That's math right there. Count how many plates you've put out. Count how many glasses you've put out. Add them up together. Reading stories together. That's building a love for reading and learning. Pick out words that you can read. That's phonics. Tidying up your own room. That teaches children independence and responsibility. Lots of interaction. Everything. The simplest are the most effective. Spotting sounds in words. Walking around your neighborhood. Spotting the numbers on the doors. Playing I Spy with my little eye gets the cognitive, the problem-solving skills, the thinking skills. All of that helps with development at this age.
I think a lot of it is exactly as you're saying there, you know, turning everyday moments into learning opportunities and not overcomplicating things and not putting the pressure on. Because when I do think back to COVID, when our eldest was in FS2, I believe, it was really damaging for our relationship because I would see the Seesaw application, you know, those notifications come up and I immediately would be like, right, Phoebe, come sit down. We've got something to do. And she could tell from my tone that I was really stressed about it. And I was like, I mean, is this the most important thing in the world? Is our relationship going to fracture over a stupid seesaw notification. This is ridiculous. And I think there is this pressure to to kind of keep up the academics, but it does show up in different ways, especially in those foundation stages. Now, screen time obviously is something that we are all trying to balance at every developmental age. And I know obviously those check-ins that you're having with the early years with Repton Al Barsha, the teachers seeing the faces, because that's often what I'm hearing from teachers, that we're really missing seeing the kids. That's really important. How are you balancing the screen time and then tasks away from the screen for the younger years, Mariam?
So we have a very structured but very flexible program. So we've got 3 lives, and those are recorded as well for the students who are able to access it if they're abroad. We've also got some pre-recorded videos that the parents can watch at their own time according to their schedule. Play is very important, and we all know this. The best learning happens through doing and not through watching. So all of the activities are either there's an instruction for it, or the teachers will even model it as well. And the children are then sent off to actively learn. It could be role playing, and anything. I'll give you an example. Yesterday for science, we were learning about reflectors versus light sources. And the children... Yeah.
This sounds quite advanced, Mariam, I'm not going to lie.
No, but that is, look at yourself in the mirror. Can you touch yourself in the mirror? And then draw yourself. What else can you see? It's all about making it exciting. And then a student was so proud to show us that he actually found a bubble as a reflector. So he was outside in the garden playing, and he realized there was a reflection in the bubble, and that was his learning. So he wasn't sat in front of a screen, but he learned exactly what was modeled to him earlier on in a pre-recorded video.
That's very sweet. Now, one thing that I've been hearing from a number of experts, and we just touched it on there from the Warrior Academy, Seb Bates, is about routine. And that's not about being, super Gina Ford, rigid about it. But I think it can be really, really helpful for younger kids to have a set wake-up time. This is what's expected. You do this before breakfast. And then, I don't know about Repton Al Barsha, but some schools are saying, put your uniform on, or certainly make yourself presentable, put your camera on. When it comes to these routines for the younger years, Mariam, what can be helpful?
The most helpful is to have that familiarity and predictable structure. Now, no matter if let's say registration is at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, but the structure of it is the same as it were in school. And that really supports the children. It helps them feel emotionally safe and stable, even though learning online. And they're reassured. They're not muted the whole time. We are conversing with the children. We're having discussions. We're playing games. And that really has kept them really engaged.
And what about the parents, finally? What about, if I could speak to, Helen 6 years ago, who was getting those cortisol spikes with every seesaw notification, the parents feeling the pressure to keep up with the academics, with the school expectations. What would you say to them, Mariam?
My biggest advice is keep it simple and keep it positive. Children really don't need perfection, or they don't need the perfect end result. What they need is the process. How do they get to that end result? That's the learning. They need the reassurance and the consistency and connection. A short, happy learning experience is far more valuable than a long and stressful one. So keep it simple as much as you can. We all know none of the teachers are expecting you to be teachers. So keep it simple and keep it positive. That's my biggest advice.
I think that's absolutely spot on, because the last thing we want is this to be, in a situation that becomes a negative association with learning. You know, that is what we want, is to keep that excitement, keep that connection, keep that fun factor in those early years. And as you're saying, looking for the learning opportunities, and that might be going to the supermarket and saying, you know, we've got 50 dirhams to spend to get dinner for, so what should we get? Or, as I said, looking for worms in the garden and blowing bubbles. Thank you, Mariam, for your words of wisdom this afternoon. I can only imagine doing an unmuted Zoom class with FS kids. It must be absolute chaos. But that's but I can see from the look of your face, that's why you love your job. It's all for the kids, isn't it?
Yes.
Mariam, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We've been talking about early years there. Mariam is the head of early years at Repton Al Barsha, and we're going to be turning our attention to primary school children next. Sol Bauer is going to be joining us. And then, turning our attention to the teens after past, especially those preparing for exams. If you've got any questions, any challenges, you want to share what's working or not working for you, feel free. We can offer some free therapy on 4001.
Dubai Eye 103.8 traffic.
Jen Crichton has just joined us in the studio, immediately looked outside to see what's happening with the weather, because that, I think, is going to have an impact on our roads. What's the latest at 3:15?
Yeah, it got dark, didn't it?
Very.
It's now raining here in Media City. I don't know what it's doing where you are, but yes, roads outside are starting to get a bit wet. I'm pleased to say that it's not showing really on the map yet through Abu Dhabi or Dubai, but once we get north of Dubai Creek, it's a different story. So if we start on the A11 Sheikh Zayed Road, I have got an accident right alongside Dubai Airport. It is incredibly slow moving from Garhoud northbound all the way up through Sharjah. We've also got an accident in Al Fahidi and one at the coast in Abu Hail. We have got two accidents on the S130 through the Al Yash area of Sharjah, one of them on the junction with the E11. And then on the 311, we've got two accidents northbound, one alongside Dubai Airport, one just on the opposite side of the Sharjah border. Very, very busy heading northbound from Dubai into Sharjah. There's also an accident on the southbound carriageway of the 311 through Sharjah's safe zone, and the traffic southbound is starting in Ajman and heading all the way down into Sharjah. 611, very busy in both directions, but particularly so northbound through Sharjah and northbound through the Al Awir area of Dubai. And we've got an accident on the 611 alongside Warsan as well. Anything that I've missed, you can let us know on the text. It's 4001. But as always, please do stop the car before you message us.
Well said, Jen Crichton.
This is Dubai Eye 103.8.
And just a little reminder, we had so many people reaching out about the podcast yesterday, about the Men's Guide to Menopause. We had author Joe Warner joining us live. Now, that podcast is now live up wherever you find your podcasts. Could be the Dubai Eye website, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Alexa. That's from yesterday. Today, however, because it's on education, our first hour is afternoons. And then if you want to get more information on distance learning advice, hear more from Seb Bates about building resilience, and we were talking about the joys of art galleries for kids, you just need to look for Eye on Education podcast.
More of Afternoons with Helen Farmer is coming up next.
On the UAE's #1 talk radio